Hey, welcome to another episode of The Lunacy of Middle Age. So we've been off for a couple weeks. We apologize to our fans,
Yeah, we're really sorry.
but we had some stuff going on in the house that we couldn't get to our equipment.
But we're
So,
back. We're
we
back
are.
now.
We're back. So in this week's episode, I think you want to talk about what?
I think we should talk about kids' sports. I mean, first of all, we just finished a wrestling season with our son, and our daughter is just starting up her competitive soccer season. So it's on the forefront of our minds, and there's some stuff about it.
Like what?
Like, adults are crazy about kids' sports.
Do you think it was always that way? I mean, I was involved in sports as a kid, but I wasn't a stellar athlete by any stretch of the imagination. Hell, I barely even played some of the times, but I just did it for fun and went out. But I don't remember parents being as, I don't even want to say avid, because that's not even
Like
the right term.
almost obsessed with their children's sports.
Yeah, it's almost like they're living vicariously through their kids to a extreme.
I mean, that's part of it. Is it that parenting has gotten to this point where parents want to be so supportive of their kids that they live and die by any activity that they're doing in sports? I mean, in American culture, sports are huge. So maybe it's just like building on that whole thing.
Maybe. I think part of the problem is it's gone beyond recreation for a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And it's become a business, where it was never a business when we were kids. Like, you played school sports. Like, you had football in the fall, or if you didn't want football, there was cross country. And then in the winter you had wrestling or basketball. And then in the spring you had track or baseball. We didn't have soccer at that time. It just wasn't big enough.
We did at our school, but I went to a bigger school than
Right.
you.
But that was it. We didn't have all these clubs. Like, kids are now almost like one sport kids. There's very few multi-sport athletes now.
Well, or at least they reach an age where it's almost like commonplace now for them to get rid of the other sports that they play probably more recreationally. Like, if you have a kid that's really good at basketball or whatever, the parents, the coaches, everyone kind of wants them to just do basketball. Focus in on that, and you'll worry about getting your college scholarship on basketball or whatever.
But even when we went, everything was free. Like, that's what the school... You might have fundraisers, like you would have to do a fundraiser here or there, but it was maybe one a season per sport.
Mm-hmm. Now, you have to lay out a lot of cash for your kids to play sports now. A lot.
Even if it's school related,
Mm-hmm.
you still have to pay. That Dave Ramsey's website said that the average sport costs the parents $1,400 a year.
And that's, I think
that's low.
I was going to say, I think it is too. Like, if your kid plays on a competitive team and they have to travel around, like, if you start adding in the traveling costs, a plane ticket, a hotel stay, or if you're driving, the gas mileage.
We just did it for wrestling this weekend. I had to have 2-night stay over. That was $350 just for the hotel.
Right, and you could drive there. Some of these kids compete in states that you couldn't really drive to. You have to fly. It gets to be really expensive for some sports.
But why did it become such a huge... But you know why it did? Because somebody learned how to make money off of it.
Well, unfortunately, along with that, so if you have a kid that plays a particular sport for their school in a particular season, now during the off season, they're joining the club sports, like you were saying, so they can play their sport pretty much year round. So not only are you paying for the school's fees to play that sport, but to play club sports is so expensive that it almost becomes exclusive. Only some people can even afford to put their kid in some of those sports.
I know. That's why I say that anymore it's not... You don't get the best players of the sport anymore. You get the best players that can afford the sport anymore.
And that's a shame. I can't stand thinking about that, because for some kids, no matter where you come from or what your economic situation is, for some of them, like, sports is it. Like, that's the thing that keeps them going and inspires them. And
But it's the whole thing is strange. I mean, look at what we've had to deal with. I mean, not just us, but I mean, you even read it in the paper how parents are getting in fights with other parents and almost getting in fights with kids because of sport. Like, what's gone wrong with us?
We've seen it ourselves. I mean, we've witnessed it. It's not just in the paper. We know firsthand of several people who have been escorted off a soccer field and a baseball field for fighting with referees in a way that's not only unsportsmanlike, but I mean, crazy. Like fist fighting and stuff like that.
It's so stupid. I don't get it.
But we've also seen adults who will verbally fight with
teenage refs.
Yeah, a teenage ref, like being mouthy and rude to a kid, a 14-year-old, to the point where the kid referee has to escort the parent off the field. Like, what would make that happen? That's ridiculous for an 11-year-old soccer game.
I don't know. I don't get it. I love watching our kids play sports. I always have, but I just, maybe it's because I don't know. It's just I go to watch them to have fun. I don't go to watch them be ultra competitive. I like it when they're competitive and I like it when they win. And I think that, but at the end of the day, they just need to do it to have fun. And I don't think that every kid plays a sport now because it's fun. I think they do it because their parents push them into it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, that can't be the only reason. And maybe that is the reason for some kids, but I don't think that's just it. I mean, I think kids still like playing sports, but it's definitely been taken up a notch too, where it's not just for fun, that's for sure. Some people take it so seriously. And I mean, it's not even as fun for us to watch our kids play sometimes if you're there with parents who are over the top, crazy.
Yelling about everything. Everything is a penalty. Everything should be called.
Right. Every call is the wrong call if it's not in favor of their team. And they get to the point where, I mean, we were at a soccer game this past season where the opposing team's parents were heckling our kids on the field. Unbelievable.
40-year-old people telling a 12-year-old that they suck.
I can't even imagine that. And the referees made the right call. I mean, unfortunately, at that game, they had to tell all parents from both teams to leave the field.
But all they did was just leave the field, and they went 10 feet to the other side, on the other side of the fence, and then they were acting like animals on the other side of the fence. Like
rattling the fence.
Rattling the fence
Still
and yelling
at the kids and the refs.
And
I mean, I've never seen anything like that before, and I felt so bad for our kids, like 12 to 14-year-olds
not just our
trying
kids,
to play soccer.
The other kids too.
Yeah, any kid, all the kids.
But I don't know. I don't get it. It's like when we go to a party and all people talk about is high school sports. It's so weird.
I mean, our friends talk a lot, not exclusively, but a lot about high school sports. And I mean, some of our friends have kids who are very good athletes. There's no doubt about that. But like rehashing every play from a game that they went to, and
that's all they do. That's all they talk about. And I feel out of the loop because they know kids from other schools, names and stats, and
I know. Are we the only ones that aren't that into kids sports, like high school sports?
I don't know. I would rather talk about other things, grown-up things. Not. It almost feels pedophiliistic.
It's not that bad. Oh my word. No, it's not that bad. But I mean, talking about that soccer game where the parents had to be told, all parents from both sides had to be told to leave the field, and then they're on the other side of the fence, like banging on the fence and still acting so rude and inappropriate. It's heartbreaking, really. I mean, it takes the fun out of it for the kids, and then I think it like sets a really bad example for how to act sportsmanlike and be a good person in general, how to treat people. And I mean, our son had a wrestling tournament this weekend. He just finished up his wrestling season, but I mean, there's some crazy stuff with wrestling too, like
those
the
are
wrestling
mostly
moms. The wrestling moms, I know. Like full leather outfits, like corsets or bustiers or something. Not all of the moms, but some.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the moms come dressed for I don't know what they're dressing for, but.
And listen, I'm a fan of tattoos because I got a ton of them, but I don't need to see every tramp stamp tattoo on a 45-year-old woman bending over on a mat, yelling and screaming profanities at
I don't care if somebody's tattoo sticks out, I guess. But right, like it's not just what they wear, but they come to it like they're ready to fight.
Well, remember, were you at that one where we went to that wrestling meet where the two fathers got in a fist fight on the side of the mat?
Yeah, the police had to come. I mean, there was like a huge gathering. People like built a circle around these two guys fighting, fist fighting at a kids wrestling meet. Unbelievable.
I don't get it.
I know. So I don't know what really led to that change where it went from, oh, kids play sports for fun, and now kids play sports, but it's really serious and their parents are all over it. Like, they...
Don't you think that's some of today's problems with society, though, is that there's no respect for anybody anymore. So they feel like they can say anything without any
consequences.
Right. There's no filter or anything, and they feel like they can say whatever they want to without remorse.
Well, it's not, the problem with society isn't kids' sports. You're just saying,
I'm just saying
the
it's a
problems
bleed
in
over
society,
into that whole thing.
Are trickling down into kids' sports where people think they can say whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want it, without any...
No matter how disrespectful it is.
Yeah, right. Like, we've lost this sort of, like, sense of civility with each other. And, I mean, I think it probably goes back to what we've talked about before with social media, where I feel like people would say anything no matter what, because it's more anonymous. You're not saying it to someone's face, but... in these situations where parents are yelling at refs, you are saying it to someone's face, but somehow our whole culture has kind of devolved into being more rude, maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. It's just crazy. But I just can't believe how much weight we put in kids' sports anymore.
I know.
And actually think about, like, they don't... a lot of... Well, where we go now, there's not even... The schools don't even bus kids anymore. And I kind of get that, because it used to be when we were part of the team, we would have to ride to the game on a bus as a team and ride home on the bus as a team. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of times, kids may have to go to the game on the bus, but then they ride home with their parents. So now we've paid that bus or that bus driver to go and then drive back 2 people versus an entire team. Which, again, I think is another... somewhat form of disrespect of a sport, because I think that you should travel to and from as a team. That's all part of being part of a team from beginning to end. We weren't allowed, I don't think, to... Well, I'm sure, because our buses were always full with our entire team, whether it was track or football or whatever, to and from. And then our parents would have to pick us up
at the school.
Our
school was the same way. We rode the bus to and from every event.
But now they don't do that.
No, they don't enforce it for sure. And you're right. It used to be like a special, you had to get special permission if you weren't going to be riding home, because maybe it was a Friday night football game and you were going away for the weekend. And you're like, oh, you had to get a permission slip to not ride home on the bus with the rest of the team.
But that is all changed now.
It is. But I mean, speaking of that, this is off topic, but busing in general is so crazy. I mean, I'm just as guilty as everyone. I drive my kids to school and pick them up as well. But it's like you line up and you're like waiting in a mile of traffic to drop your kids off at school. Meanwhile, a school bus pulls in with 2 kids on it. So they run the buses because they have to, because there are certain kids whose parents can't drive them to school. But oh my word, it's so expensive to run a bus to pick up a couple of kids. They should really, I think they should just make all kids ride buses. That would cut down on traffic. Kids wouldn't be late to school.
But I think our kids should ride the bus too. I don't think they should be getting a ride every day.
I know. I'm not saying I disagree with you.
Then why do you do it?
Well,
you're part of the problem.
I am part of the problem. I said that from the beginning of me bringing this up. I will say this. When our kids were little, like when they were in kindergarten and they got on the bus, I mean, the bus is rough.
But that's where you learn stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
So what? It's the way you learn life.
I guess. I didn't really like having to explain to my 6-year-old what oral sex was. I mean, not that I was not going to talk to our kids about stuff like that, but I didn't really want it to come up because he heard some strange information on the school bus.
Why?
What do you mean? The bus is rough. Like, the bus driver is focusing on the road. They can't focus on the kids in the back, really. It's just like
the
free
bus
for
is all good. That's the way, but that's the way it should be. That's life. That's how you learn things. Life on the streets.
I agree with you. I mean, I'm okay with kids riding the bus. I don't know why I continue to be part of the problem. I don't know.
What a waste of natural resources.
It is. But
That
anyway,
bus drives right by our house every day.
I'm aware. And kids are late to school every day. All the time they're like putting out newsletters, please bring your children to school on time. Meanwhile, there's a mile of parents backed up to try to drop their kids off when the school bus drives by with 2 kids.
Well, we're getting off topic. This is supposed to be about
School
sports.
I know, but in general, I think it's like what culturally made that shift happen where, I mean, it probably depends heavily on the school district. I mean, think about it. Like, there are school districts where kids can walk to school, which is good. There are school districts where they have busing to schools, and it seems like at least in some of those school districts, it's all switched over to parents driving their kids. A lot of them, anyway. I don't know.
No.
I think I drive our kids to school because I wished my mom would have driven me to school. I rode the bus
I
my
love the bus.
entire. I didn't like the bus. Like, I'm not a morning person, so I'd have to like walk down a really long driveway, and in the winter it was icy, like slipping and falling, carrying my heavy book bag. I used to wake up too late, so I had really long hair. My hair was wet. It would freeze at the bus stop. I get on the bus. We would go around and pick up, like, the first boy we picked up would want to sit with me every single day, and he would like talk to me. And
Oh, well, aren't you that special?
I'm not special. He was just a chatty kid. Like, he wanted to talk, and I don't like talking in the morning. It wasn't like that. He was just annoying to me.
I loved the bus.
What was good about it?
What wasn't good about it? You learned everything. You hung out with friends. You did stuff you weren't supposed to do.
What did you learn on the bus?
Oral sex.
Right. Well, now I know why you love the bus so much.
That's right. I did like it.
I didn't. So that's why I feel like I want to drive my kids, because I feel like that is another problem with how kids are raised these days, though. Like, when we were growing up, we didn't have a lot of stuff. I mean,
oh boy,
neither of us.
Kids these days. You're sounding like an old person now.
I'm middle-aged, remember?
These kids these days.
But it is, don't you think, you and I have talked about this before, like, when we were kids, we did not grow up in the same town, we didn't even know each other, but we're both from, like, working class families where our parents did everything they could to make sure we had everything we needed. But I don't think that either of us were spoiled when we were growing up. And I think, like, I used to go to school and I kind of envied the other girls that had, like, brand name clothes and stuff like that. I don't know if you did, because you didn't care that much about those types of things, but did you ever feel like you wished you had stuff that other kids had?
No.
Never?
As a kid growing up?
Yeah. You never, like, had other kids that you were like, oh man, I wish I had that?
Not really.
Really? Interesting. Well, I wished I had, like, whatever, Benetton clothes when I was a kid. And I didn't really. Like, one time a year at Christmas, I could ask for special things, and I got them, and it seemed really special to me. But now I think I try to, like, overcompensate for that or something, because I want our kids to have whatever brands.
So now our kids have all Benetton clothes?
I don't even know if Benetton exists anymore. But whatever brand is cool, I would like our kids to have
I never
at least
thought
some
about that.
clothing like that. Is that a girl thing, or is it just a me thing?
I don't know. I think that we had 2 different lives in school.
Well, we did. I mean, we both kind of grew up in rural areas. However, your school was tiny. Like, did you even graduate with 100 kids?
Yes.
How
we had
many?
150.
Oh, sorry, 150. But I graduated with twice as many kids as you. So I went to a school that was twice as big.
Yeah, we didn't have as many cliques because you weren't. If you had a clique, then you were by yourself.
Our school was really cliquey.
I was friends with everybody. I was friends with the stoners. I was friends with the jocks.
I didn't even know everybody in my school. In my grade, I mean.
Oh, yeah. I knew everybody in our grade, and plus we usually knew everybody.
In every grade?
Pretty much. Well, that's not true. Once you got down below, usually the grades above and below. 1 grade above and 1 grade below.
You knew every kid?
Pretty much.
Yeah, our school was different. So maybe that's part of what it was. You know, there was more competition. There was more cliques. People were snobbier at my school, maybe.
How'd this get off on school sports?
I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of about how things have changed in schools in general, I guess. I mean, like, when we were kids, school sports weren't taken so seriously. When we were kids, you rode the bus. Like, that's just what you did.
But I guess maybe that's the question. Were they taken that seriously and we just didn't know about it because we weren't that serious into sports?
I mean, that could be it. Neither of us are stellar athletes, so our parents probably weren't talking about our sporting events and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. Plus, I don't know. My parents weren't overly social when I was a kid, so I don't think that they would be in a situation where school sports would have really come up. But your parents were pretty social. The thing is, I don't think the people they were hanging out with were inclined to talk about school sports. They had more important things to talk about, it seems like. Or do. They were doing stuff.
Well, my parents weren't helicopter parents. When we used to go, even when we went to our hunting cabin, all the adults used to play cards. We never saw them. We never hung out with them. We were all out doing our own thing.
Oh, yeah. My parents weren't helicopter parents either. I mean, my dad didn't live with us for half the week because of the nature of his work. And my mom was working like all the time. And I was taking care of my sisters quite often for some part of the day. But yeah,
I mean, that goes back to the whole thing about the sport. My parents would come to our sporting events.
Oh, yeah. My parents too. But they weren't like, they didn't follow me around and know everything that was going on every second of my life for sure.
Mm-mm. Well, and you know what? They wouldn't necessarily always come to every sporting event either. If it was pretty far away, because both of them worked, they might not be able to make it to it.
True. But
now, I mean, so think about it. I had to take a day off of work on Friday to take him to a tournament. It was all day. I mean, if the kids play in those club soccer sports and stuff, I mean, sometimes they're gone for close to a week because they have to go to. It's just insane. Mm-hmm. And everybody. I don't know.
They miss school to go to club sporting events.
I just, and like I said, I mean, all of our kids have played some form of sport, and we've tried to make every single game.
We try really hard.
But you know what? I don't even know the names of the kids on our own team, let alone like those people that know not only the ones on our team, but every other team in the district.
Well, that's not very nice of you. You should at least know the kids on our own team.
Why?
You're so disinterested in sports that you don't even care to learn the names of the other kids on your own team?
No, I mean, I like watching it, but I don't need to know their name to know if they do a good sport. I know their number. Number 24.
That number 24,
yep.
She can really kick the ball.
I have a tough time with 4 kids remembering our own kids' names. I'm not going to try to remember someone else's kids' names.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe we're the outsiders in this conversation where, you know.
I don't think so, because I think it's dependent on the area that you move to. Because when we lived up where we lived, that's all anybody ever talked about was high school sports. But when we moved down here...
But we're not friends with anybody down here whose kids are in high school sports.
Certainly we are.
Who? Like, which friends?
Like, all of Curtis's friends are in a sport.
Well, but our kids go to different schools. So if he talked about his kids' sports, it wouldn't be super relevant to us.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
It doesn't matter because everybody talks about those sports no matter where they are. And everybody would know everybody from every other team. So they would talk about them.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's just so... I don't know. I just don't get it.
So you think it's based on the area in the country where you are, how serious people take their children's sports or how much they talk about their children's sports with each other?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I just don't.
It seems pretty over the top, though.
It does. Everything about it. And that's all because they've figured out how to make money at it. That's what it was.
Who do you mean by they?
That's why all these club sports are. That's why all the club sports are. Think about how much it costs to play the club. How much did it cost us just to join? Like $700?
Something like that. And then you have to buy the uniform.
And then you have to travel, and you got to get hotel rooms sometimes. I mean, it's insane. I mean, that's why it doesn't. It knocks out a whole portion of potential players.
Mm-hmm. It really does. That's a shame.
Because they can't afford to do it.
Well, the other thing is some of these parents get really serious about it, and I think, do you think they think their kids are going to get scholarships? And what percentage of kids actually do get scholarships for sports? It's got to be a tiny fraction, like tiny.
I don't know. That's why I don't get why. I don't know. And you know what? Maybe part of it is too. Maybe it's because we don't get the whole social aspect of it either.
I mean, like when they go to a game, the parents all sit together and they kind of like rally and they hang out. It's like a sporting event.
It's like a communal thing.
Yeah, it is. Well, maybe if we were a little friendlier, we'd feel like we were part of the community.
But I mean, I think that's part of the problem is it's not that we're not friendly. It's just that we're not as involved in the sports as they are.
That's true.
But then I don't know. Sometimes you go to these soccer games and half of the parents don't even pay attention. They're just talking to each other.
Looking at their phones, talking to each other. I know, we actually watched the game. I mean,
I don't know. I just don't. I really don't get it. And maybe we are the odd people out. And I guess maybe that's about all sports.
what do you mean?
How fanatic people get about sports. I mean, remember it was just a couple years ago where that young kid turned around and punched that. It was in Jacksonville, I think, at the Jaguars game where he was from the other team or whatever. So he intentionally stood up in front of that older guy so that the older guy couldn't see what was going on. And when the older guy said, "Hey, can you sit down so I can see?" the young kid punched him right in the face, broke his nose or his jaw or something. I mean,
Oh, my word.
Why would sports do that?
I don't know, but I mean, that goes back to what you said. It's sort of it's a reflection of society's state as well. Like, there's no civility, there's a lot of rudeness, outward rudeness that maybe people didn't express as much in the past.
I don't know. Remember that soccer game that we were at that you were talking about where that guy was probably 35, maybe 40 years old, and the
Yelling
ref,
at the kid ref.
what was he? The ref, like
He was 14.
14,
Mm-hmm.
telling him he sucked and he better get it right, and I mean, almost threatening that kid. That's the only time I've ever really said anything at a game, where I told that guy, "Hey, they're always looking for refs. Here's an application."
Well, you also said that kid's 14.
Oh yeah,
That's a 14-year-old child that you're yelling at.
that's crazy.
Like, get your head screwed on straight.
Actually,
Why are you doing this?
Remember the other time where that one guy that just got out of jail? Remember him? That guy that got out of jail. I don't want to say any names or whatever.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, of
And
course.
he got thrown out by like a
Yes.
15-year-old kid.
I know.
And
that
he was like
another
threatening
situation.
him. He was like gonna kill him.
I don't know if he said that, but it was more of a threat than just a nasty way of talking. But still, they're kid refs. I couldn't believe it in either situation, and we've seen it several times. Those were just the worst times where the parents were over the top, insane, and talking so rudely and inappropriately to anyone. I mean, it's not just because they were children refs, but that makes it worse.
I don't know. The whole thing is weird.
I mean, we know a guy who's been banned from the Little League for the rest of his life. Like, come on. Pull it together. So, there you have it. Banned from Little League. I don't know. What else can we say about it? There's a weird breakdown in society. Parents are overly concerned with their kids' sports. Parents are willing to be rude at kids' sporting events. I mean, things are a little haywire, I feel like.
Sports are weird. I thought they should. I would always say I think that they should be fun, but I mean, even if you look back, probably in history, sports have always been for the entertainment of other people, even at the gladiator stage of things.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, the American culture rallies around football season.
How did sports get started anyway? Like, think about some of these sports that we have. Like, even now with the Olympics going on, you have curling. Who thought that's so stupid? Like, do the curling parents?
Are they out on the ice yelling with their tramp stamp tattoos showing?
I know. Scrape that ice, scrape that ice. Like, what are they doing when they do that? Trying to direct the stone or whatever that thing is called?
Yeah, I guess.
I'm going to tell you, there's probably people right now that are at a party that are talking about curling.
Did you see that curling last week? Man.
Stupid.
Well, if you think about any sport too much, it's all pretty stupid.
I know.
You're throwing a ball down a field, you're kicking a ball, you're throwing a ball through a little basket. I mean, all of it is silly. They just seem important because we place value on it, but it's pretty silly.
At least with wrestling, it's some type of primitive survival thing. You gotta, but that sport is so weird. It grosses me out because it's very perverse. You got these kids running around in these skin tight. They don't wear cups, and you're like, "What the hell is going on?" It looks so gross. Put a pair of shorts on.
And then they're out on the mat, like smashing each other's faces into it.
Getting all kinds of bacterial diseases.
Oh, I know.
And what's that thing? Bed bugs, not bed bug, ringworm.
Ringworm, staph infections, all kinds of stuff. Mat herpes, ew.
But isn't it funny too, like the class of individuals that do things, and this is going to be offensive, I know, but it's usually lower classes are in that wrestling thing. Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if that's the case. You're kind of just making that assumption based on your observations.
Maybe it's just because I focus on those parents that are the fighters and the...
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm sure somebody just got mad about something I just said, but oh well. Screaming you. So anyway, we don't know what the solution is. We just thought it was very strange about school sports, and actually not just school sports, all sports, kids sports, I should say, and how ridiculous it's gotten over the years and how we're contributors to it. But anymore, if you want your kid to fit in or your kid wants to fit in, that's kind of what they have to do.
Play sports?
Or anything like that, because it goes beyond sports. I mean, there's clubs for everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't really think that's anything new. I mean, lots of kids like participating in some kind of club, sport, whatever it might be. I mean, they like the social aspects of it. I think the parents take it a lot more seriously than the kids, and any kid that's on the field that's taking their sport more seriously than having fun with it is just a trickle down from the way the parents raise them, set an example for them.
I guess so. I can't get my mind off of curling now. Like, where do they do curling? Like, how do you become a professional in curling?
I don't know.
Like, do you have
cold parts of the country or the world?
Yeah. Was there a Jamaican curling team?
I'm not sure.
But how did you even grow up doing that? Like, where the hell did it come from?
I don't know. That's an odd sport.
Well, look at this stupid stuff that you got going on now, too. I mean, they have that beanbag cornhole, which I hate the name of that cornhole. It's so disgusting. But anyway.
That's competitive?
Yeah, they have it now.
Like cornhole tournaments?
Yes. That sounds not like a porn.
Hello.
What are you watching? Oh, the cornhole tournament. But the other thing is, too,
That's not an Olympic sport, though.
Not yet.
Is it?
It probably will be. But, the other thing, too, is that spike ball thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's like
pretty fun.
It is, but now it's like a collegiate kind of thing. And
yeah. It's competitive. Right. Every single sport has to become, like, why do they have to take it to the next level? Can't it just be something you do in the backyard?
Because it's all money driven. Because they look for a way, how can you get a sponsor? The sponsors are going to pay.
I know. You can market anything. You can sell anything. And the marketers are pretty smart.
Are we that drained as a society to try to find things to do on our own that we have to watch?
Watch other people curl?
I can't.
People would watch anything.
I'm going to tell you, though.
You like curling?
No, but I was one of those people that was watching it on the Olympics because I was watching.
How did that make the cut for Olympics anyway?
I don't know.
You're right. Like, that's an interesting sport. I don't really know much about it. I don't know anything about its history. Now I kind of want to know because that's a weird one.
It's like darts on ice. But all right. Well, it was a good talk. Now we have to go watch some curling.
I can't wait. I'm on the edge of my seat.
All right. Well, we will be back and hopefully next week at this time. If anybody wants to get a hold of us, they can get a hold of us on our email address, which is
lunacyofma@gmail.com.
Thank you. I always like
to
screw it up.
It?
No, I always like to screw it up. But anyway, we will talk again next week. Hope everybody's well. It's good to be back.
Yep. See you later.
Bye.